Hey friends, let's get started talking. Hold on, let me turn on another light. Hope you guys are doing well today. Let's jump on, let's talk real estate. At a different place today. So figured I would jump in, say hey, let's go from there. Hey, how's it going? Flow Abundance. All right, let's answer some real estate questions, you guys. Let's talk through a few things. First of all, the Fed's dropping the interest rates. That information just came out today. Hey, how's it going? I see that as you guys are jumping in, let's talk through some things, all right? I'm not going to have that to my back because it's dark. All right, Feds just dropped the interest rates. Why? Do you guys know why that matters to real estate? Do you guys know why that matters to investors? It's okay if you don't. I think this is important to talk through. So, first of all, it's important to know what the Fed is, so the Federal Reserve. It's important to know why it impacts you. A lot of times when people talk about, macroeconomics, it can be overwhelming, and some people can say, hey, I don't understand what all do not disturb on. So, a lot of times people say, hey, when there's all those, whether it's big words I don't know that they mean, I don't pay attention to that, right? A lot of times, for years, I used to not. And here's why it matters. When you invest in real estate, you invest into an ecosystem, right? Both locally and nationally. So it's super important to know what's going on in the local and in the national markets, right? On the national level, you have things like Wall Street. You have things like the Federal Reserve. You have things like, in general, what's going on with the national, economy. And then you have your local economy, what's going on. And so it's important to stay informed. So the Fed just, introduced that they're going to drop the rate by 50 basis points. Here's some important things to keep in mind. I'm no expert. I'm no economist. I'm none of that. But at the end of the day, this is something where, how might it impact you? Number one, this might, by the way, when they say they drop, a basis point, that doesn't mean a mortgage is going to drop from, 7% to 6.5%. There is a difference. Okay, there's a difference there. So when the Fed drops rates does not mean they're dropping mortgage rates. So that's one thing. And the second thing is understand that ultimately one of the big things you want to pay attention to is consumer confidence. Okay, so I want to show you a few things. I have my computer with me today, so I can show you some things. All right, so maybe you follow this, maybe you don't, but I want to show you something. All right, I'm at my mother's house here, so I want to show you something. All right, so if you Google CNN Greed and Fear Index, how many of you have ever seen this before? So this CNN, Fear and Greed Index, this is not the gospel, right? But this is something I look at from time to time. When something really negative happens in the marketplace, I have seen us in the extreme fear. So this is today, last updated September 18th at 3:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 1 month ago, you've got let's see, this is the overview. Let's look at the timeline. So going up, so if you go up, that's extreme greed, and go down, that's extreme fear. And so, for example, this fear and greed index, again, not the gospel truth, but, here's the thing. This is since January of 2024 right here. Look at it. People have been really greedy. They've been really fearful, right? And so when you think about a real estate market, understand that, obviously this is meant to be more toward investors and more toward like people in the stock market and things like that. But why does economics matter? It matters because if you are wholesaling a deal and if too many of your buyers are afraid to pull the trigger, then you have less, investors who are willing to buy, right? If there's too many people who are in the extreme fear situation, you can't sell your wholesale deals. If you've got a lot of layoffs happening, right? And there's extreme fear of job stability, and things like that, ultimately that means, you might have problems with, maybe a tenant gives you, who you thought would stay long-term in your rental, gives you notice that they're going to move out because they're moving in with family to, save on cost because they have income instability, right? So don't take economics and things that are happening in the markets, both the stock market and what's called Main Street, and various things like that. Don't let that bypass you. Now, you want to be careful where people are too inundated with it, where, basically they obsess over it, because there's a level I stay informed. Okay. I'll just say that. I like to stay informed. I like to be educated when it comes to the economy and markets and things like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to let it consume my time. Okay. But I am paying attention. So what's some of the advice that I've gotten from my gray-haired mentors when a market is shifting? One of them is that you want to stay networking. Specifically, you want to network with the people who are doing volume, and meaning they're in the trenches. They're seeing more than, if someone does one flip a year, I mean, they're pretty hands-on. They're in there doing it, right? But they're not seeing volume, right? They're like, they're just seeing what's happening with their one property for sale. But if you talk to a flipper that has anywhere from 10 to 15 happening at any given time, they're seeing some things, right? And so what I like to do is I like to stay in touch with a title company that's doing volume. Hey, what are you seeing? Are you seeing more of your files, fall through? I like talking with top producing real estate agents, right? People who are doing a ton of volume. One of my friends who's a top producing agent does business with a transaction coordinator. That transaction coordinator does business and handles the files for a lot of top producing agents, right? When agents have a lot of business, one of the things they outsource is the people who are going to do the paperwork. And so what is she seeing? She was seeing that there was one of the things she was seeing was a lot of extensions in, properties that go under contract in the greater New Orleans area, but then, they're having to, do an extension, or things are falling through. So stuff isn't closing on time. Okay. For example, with property managers, hey, what are you seeing? And like when I'm right now, before I go and make a decision on a property, I've been calling my property manager. Hey, I'm about to make an offer on this property. I'll say, hey, 123 Main Street. What do you think about that area? Have you rented anything there recently? I was looking at buying in a neighborhood that has a lot for sale right now, as well as a lot for rent, right? Because there's a lot for sale, a lot of the owners have put their stuff for sale. And so I said, hey, how's that going? When you are pitting stuff for rent, what's happening? And she was like, look, if it's this size and this bedroom, it's moving along, right? I was like, okay, what about the smaller stuff? Is that sitting? So by staying informed One of the ways that I'm doing that is by networking and having meaningful conversations, like where I'm asking pointed questions to people who are in the trenches seeing volume. My mentor Pete told me that that would be one thing he would do. Meet with, talk with, get in the room with regularly with people who are doing volume and saying, hey, forget what the news is saying on the TV, right? You can have, I think we all have a lot of opinions about what's going on with that. But forget about what's going on the TV, what's going on the news. What are the real people who are really doing volume in our industry seeing in my market? And so this is why it is so important to network, you guys. In real estate, it does matter what you know. It also matters who you know, right? And you can fight it all you want, but I've seen people in my market stay a lone wolf, and they have pinched their potential in ways. And so one of the things here, look, don't shy away from things like economics and staying informed in those ways. Anytime stuff's going on in the marketplace, find people who you feel comfortable saying, hey, well, what does this mean? Who know what they're talking about, and they can answer your questions. And so a lot going on, right? A lot going on nationally, federally with real estate. A lot going on locally. You should know your local market. If you've tuned into me, you've heard New Orleans has had a difficult time. The last really since end of 2022, we've had a difficult market. So, some of you may be listening to me, and what I'm seeing in New Orleans may be nothing compared to what maybe you're seeing in your backyard in North Carolina or in Georgia or in California or wherever you're tuning in from. Because I do know I have a lot of people who tune in nationwide, but I'm going to speak to what I know. I'm going to speak to what I'm experienced. So you also want to be mindful, because my local market is seeing something that some of the other markets are not seeing. So keep that in mind. I wanted to talk with you guys today about really just keep your ear to the ground. Be mindful who you're listening to, who you're tuning into. Because, for example, I recently put out a market report podcast. All right, we got Florida listening in. There you go. Put in the chat where you guys are listening in from, because I do know I have a lot of Louisiana, Mississippi, but I know I have other folks. So just put the state that you're listening in from. So, for example, I did a podcast recently on like a local market report where we talked about what's going on in the greater New Orleans area. Myself, one of my business partners who's the top wholesaler in my market. Man, everyone who's listening, we got 3 people listening in from Florida so far. Good stuff, you guys. And then we had a local broker who's an investor as well. So we were having a conversation, and someone was like, "Hey, that was basically, how should we say this? We had some folks who were like, y'all shouldn't, talk about the negative things in the market because that's going to scare people." I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. I'm not going to hide it, but I'm also not going to be a doom and gloom person, right? And then here's the other thing is, if you want, I'm not trying to paint the narrative, but I'll be honest, like investors, we can lean towards more, one-sided view. I'll be honest, as someone who stops foreclosures, who deals with the messy side of real estate, I always get to see the worst situations. I just do. I get to see people who are losing their home. I get to see people who are, really at the end of the day, I like the worst situations in my area. So I understand that my view can be skewed, right? But some other folks, right, they can be skewed as well. So just be mindful with where you're listening into. You want to make sure you keep a diverse group of people that you're learning from. There's some people who I pay attention to what they're having to say about the market, who are a little bit, I don't want to say doom and gloom, but like they have, let's just say, a negative connotation to it. And then I have some people who are a little bit, rosier on their perspective on the economy. You just want to be mindful. And I like to listen to people with a few different opinions. What you want to be careful of is staying in an echo chamber where everyone is saying the same thing. So some of you may know the Real Estate Guys. They're a famous radio show, podcast. They're two, older gentlemen who've been doing this for a really long time. But they had they have a syndicated radio show. And as someone who's on the radio myself, I can appreciate that. And I got the chance to meet them. So the Real Estate Guys, I don't even know, are they based out of the West Coast? Something like that. They're US based. But it's funny, there's a really big conference in New Orleans that I did not know about that's been happening for like 50 something years, but I learned about it like 3 years ago. And it's called the New Orleans Investment Conference, where they literally talk about like stocks, crypto, gold, silver, like mining for gold and silver and crypto. They talk about stocks, and they talk, so it's like investing across the board. All right. And this is a really big conference that happens every year in New Orleans again. And again, been going on for decades. Had no idea. One of my business partners learned about it because he's a big Kiyosaki fan, and Kiyosaki wrote about it in some of his books, I think, or talked about it or something like that. And for years, Kiyosaki has gone. Anyway, my own backyard in New Orleans. So I'm like, all right. So my business partner, he moved here, I think 6 years ago now at this point, 5+ years ago. And he immediately started going to this conference every year. Well, around the second year, he invited me to, so again, predominantly investing across the board. And they had a lot of economists there talking about the economy. So you would see people in the room who were like, hedge fund managers, just like private wealth client, that would have private wealth clients. You would see like, people who would manage money for other people, like stuff like that. That's who was in the room. And the conversation was like 10% around real estate, maybe 20%. It was predominantly like, it was again, across the board, a lot of different types of asset classes. And they happened to have a rooftop event that was for real estate only. And it was like for the niche of real estate. Anyway, someone snuck me in. I'm not going to say who, but someone snuck me into that rooftop event. This was like maybe 3 years ago. And anyway, I went to it, and, George Gammon is there, who a lot of you guys know in real estate. He's also, likes to talk about macro economics. But then the real estate guys were there. So I started talking about them. These guys, they have a radio show. I'm on the radio as well, so I like talking with, so I actually sought out to talk with them about radio because not many people are on the radio these days. They're usually, social media or on podcast. And I have a live call-in radio show every Saturday, so it's, something that I was like, hey, I wanted to get some of their advice on it. But we got talking. I said, hey, what brought you to attend this conference, right? It's only this much about real estate versus it being a real estate conference. And he goes, Courtney, he goes, in 2008, we lost so much. And he says, one thing I credit that to was that I stayed in rooms, or it's him and his, business partner. We stayed in rooms where it was an echo chamber, meaning it's like basically we were in a lot of the same rooms with a lot of the same people consistently. And because of that, we did not have any type of diverse dialogue, diverse conversations. And that's something I would encourage you to be mindful of. For example, a lot of my mentors hang out in within a group of speakers, and basically there's a handful of conferences that happen every year that like a lot of us attend, okay? But that is very much an echo chamber. It is all real estate, all similar thoughts, happening. And I want to encourage you to be mindful of being stuck in an echo chamber. And so this year I'm wanting to, tap into the investment the New Orleans Investment Conference, because I'm like, I want to hear what these economists have to say. I want to hear what other people in other assets are saying. Obviously, people are talking about real estate right now. But again, I guess there's a level where I didn't think about that. I didn't think about how much I listen to the same people, or people who are influenced by other people, and what you want to be careful with. So when I say an echo chamber, what that looks like is, y'all, a lot of people echo other people. I'll be honest, a lot of what I talk about, I've learned from my mentors. Sure, I put my own flair on it, but a lot of it comes, there's really nothing new under the sun, right? And so a lot of what you find is, content creators, teachers, you name it, they're really just taking stuff that they heard somewhere else, read somewhere else, learned from someone else, and they're really just putting their own spin on it. And so that's something that I would say, hey, be mindful of. Again, if you're around a lot of the people who, run in similar circles, you're going to hear similar conversations. And so I want to encourage you, how are you being mindful of the echo chamber that you're in? I am looking to continue to, surround myself with people who, it's kind of like the idea where people who have a different opinion, than you do, but like, hey, as long as we're having educated conversations, I want to be in these rooms. And so I want to encourage you, just look for the weak spots, right? If you're like, hey, maybe I am actively doing this business, but I don't network with other people in my market. That can be a weak spot. Look, you can watch all the data that you want, but data, like statistics, like these reports, are always lagging, meaning, whatever's happening today is going to come on a report that's going to be in a few months, right? Or in 30 days. And so how do I beat that report? I go talk with people today that are in the business. I got on the phone yesterday and I called a friend who flips 10 to 15 houses at a time in the New Orleans market. Hey, what are you seeing? What are you doing? What's going on? Right? I stay in touch. There's a handful of lenders I stay in touch with, different title companies, agents, flippers, property managers, other landlords, people who are doing short-term rentals. So, because, hey, I may not be doing those. I have, as far as flipping goes, I haven't taken down, renovated, and resold a property in a long time. That's just not my model. I haven't done that in like 2 years. I do plenty of other strategies, right? But I'm talking with them. Hey, what are the wholesalers seeing, right? What are the new construction guys seeing? By doing that, especially, and look, when you're in more than one market, it makes it difficult. Because you may hear, the new construction guys are killing it in one market, but maybe they're getting, slammed in another market where, in a negative way, where they're just, things are just sitting there. And so I want to encourage you, what are the weak points, right? If you're assessing, part of our job as investors is to assess risk. Part of the ways that I assess risk is I'm like, what's going on? I'm paying attention to what's going on. And when the writing is on the wall, it's like as if I'm putting my ear to the ground and saying, hey, what do I hear? What do I hear coming down, the pipeline? And then I'm making adjustments, right? I'm either putting my foot more on the gas or taking my foot off. I started this by showing you the fear and greed index on CNN. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but it's that idea is, hey, when there's extreme fear, what are you going to do? Are you going to put your foot on the brake? Are you going to take your foot off the gas? What type of investor are you? I'm not saying there's a good or a bad, and I'm not saying there's a right choice from you. I'm just saying, are you doing it informed? Right? Are you doing it informed? And so that's my little rant for today. I want to encourage you, right? I've talked about this a ton, to play both offense and defense. Do it informed. Do it informed both on a national and federal level. Do it also informed on a local level. And if you're in more than one market, you got a lot of work to do. You've got a lot of work to do. Some markets feel it more than others. It just varies. And I've said this before, but it's the defense that I have played in the past that's allowing me to play offense now. You've got to be mindful. So, what are you guys' real estate questions? I'm here to answer them. If you got questions around real estate investing, if you got questions around creative finance, if you got questions around buy and hold, whatever that looks like, go ahead and put it in the comments. Or if you're open to it, you can go ahead and join me on the live to chat face to face. What you guys got going on today to talk about? Let's see. What's up, everyone? I know you guys are joining in. Man, so we've got 3 people listening in from Florida. Where else is everyone else from? Put in the chat, where are you based out of? Because I know I get people from all over. And look, Florida folks, you've got to stay informed, because Central Florida, a lot's been happening in Central Florida. I go down to Tampa, St. Pete very frequently. So a lot's going on. So we got Toronto in the building. Look, I go on Saturday, I fly to Ottawa, like Ontario area for 2 days. So what's up, Canada? I've got North Carolina. Where else are you guys from? Anything you guys are seeing in your markets that you want to talk about? Because ultimately, again, I think it's super important that you stay tied in to folks who are in your market. You can speak to what's going on in your market, so you can stay most informed. I know that the big news, we got Eric out of New Orleans. What's up, man? I know that the big news today is that the Fed dropped 50 basis points. We'll see what that looks like. What do you guys think that's going to do? And I'm curious to hear what you guys think that's going to do to consumer confidence, because I think that is a critical part. Is right now, consumer confidence is lacking in a lot of ways. And that's going to impact a lot of things. That's going to impact, again, people wanting to move right now. People may say, hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm nervous about what's going on. I'm nervous about the future of my job. Well, look, instead, if I was planning to move, whether maybe buy a house or rent somewhere else, but you know what? Let me sit tight, right? So what are you guys seeing where you guys are at? Do you think that the 50 basis points from the Fed rate cut today is going to, what do you think that's going to do to your side of the business? So I'm not in the market yet, but very interested. You know what? I think that's a really solid point there. Because ultimately, that's something I think it's important to, when deciding a market, where to go. You want to make that as an informed decision as well. Figuring out, especially if you're like, hey, I'm going to get in the market for flipping. Some markets are a lot better than other markets for flipping. If you're going to get in for wholesaling, if you're going to get in for, rentals, or, whether it's short-term rentals, long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, all of that can highly vary. So with that in mind, choose wisely. I have a lot of friends who are in Colorado and who are long-term landlords, and the laws are changing right now as we speak. They've been changing a lot, that I'm curious how many of those friends are going to stay in the state of Colorado as long-term landlords. The laws are changing drastically there, to where it is becoming it changed highly from going from a landlord friendly state to a tenant friendly state, and I'm seeing a lot of my landlord friends getting squeezed over there. So that's important to pay attention to. One of the other things is you've got city. So not only state is it important, but city. In Louisiana we got parishes, but some areas, it's counties. I also own in South Mississippi. Some counties in South Mississippi vary greatly from other counties. Those are all things to keep in mind. All things to keep in mind. Any questions, you guys? Renee was saying, She's heard that about Colorado. Yeah, it is wild what they're seeing right now. If I remember right, one of the laws was talking about the source of income is protected, meaning if you're renting to someone, you can't discriminate against source of income, meaning if 90% of the rent is paid by Section 8, you can't discriminate against it from other rentals. So wherever the source of income is, and like that's something that I think I've seen it in 2 places. Eric says, in my opinion, it's not enough as far as dropping it by 50 basis points. You have people still looking for the 2020 interest rate of 3%. You know, Eric, you're not wrong. And this was a conversation I've had where it's like, you know, will dropping of interest rates change, you know, what's going on with buyers? Because right now, especially in the greater New Orleans area, we just have so few buyers who are doing anything. And so it's not necessarily that we have a crash in prices, we're having a crash in transactions, right? This is why I'm seeing a lot of my, you know, friends that are, whether they're real estate agents, insurance, you know, mortgages, inspections, you know, title companies, that some people are saying, hey, I'm getting another job, or they're doing layoffs or whatever. Because there's just not a ton of volume happening. Because like, for example, I have a friend who has 11 or 12 properties listed, but doesn't know when one of them will close. I mean, some would say that's a lot of volume, right? To have that many listings at once. But when not many of them are moving or doing anything, then, you know, what does that look like for them paying their bills, all of that. So one of the other big things there is saying, hey, will this get people, you know, will this get people running into the marketplace to drop interest rates? A huge part. Ultimately, it is like, I think that unless we see, and this is something that, you know, I actually had some conversations with friends, what are you seeing in the marketplace, all this. And one of the things a lot of us agreed on is that a little bit of an interest rate drop, it'll get some activity, but what'll get a lot of activity is if we start seeing rates, you know, in the low to mid 5s. And that's enough to where people say, hey, I have an 8% rate, let me refinance, or let me sell and rebuy, sell and move. But like Renee said, we got 2.8% in 2021 on a rental property. Like that's huge, Renee. Like those are so hard to give up. And so what you're seeing right now is a lot of people who are saying, hey, there is such a difference, right? So the more that we can close that gap, people are going to say, oh, well, someone might say I have 2.8% and hey, it's 5% right now. Okay, like now I'm ready to move. But while it's still in the 6s, I'm not ready, right? And so what we're lacking is the people who are both selling, right? Because what you might get is someone who's like, hey, I might refinance, but I'm not going to go buy, right? The other thing is a lot of people, it's an affordability problem through and through. So, you know, and I think that it is not just interest rates. Like you have to remember what affects people's monthly affordability, right? Their monthly bills. So interest rates is just one part. So the purchase price, right? I'm sure you've seen it, right? When the interest rates went down lower, people could buy more, right? They had more buying power because the money was cheap. When the money is more expensive, they have less of a buying power, right? So high interest rates, think, they can afford less. When you have low interest rates, they can afford more. So purchase prices matter, right? Because, you know, while rates have been high, a lot of prices did not come down. And so what did that do? It halted a lot of transactions. So that's important. But what are the other things that are impacting people's monthly, payments? So we've got the principal, which is the purchase price. You've got the interest rate, right? And the interest rates are things that, change in the marketplace, but that price part, right? We haven't seen a ton of change in those price points, but that's also impacting people. So purchase price plus interest rate, those matter. But what else? We've got property taxes, right? In Louisiana, 2024 is a reassessment year. We are seeing property taxes, literally 95% of my properties increased, and some of them increased a lot with my rentals in the state of Louisiana. And every 4 years we do a reassessment. So that's something that's hitting my bottom line right now. And I'm having to pick and choose which one am I going to contest and all that. So you've got higher property taxes. And then on top of that, you've got insurance. So that's the fourth thing: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And insurance, although it's starting to, plateau in Louisiana, you might get a little bit of an increased rate, but not anything crazy. I finally got, I've told you all the story. I had a duplex in New Orleans East worth maybe 175-ish. I haven't run comps on it in a while, but that's kind of been the running value. I remember it cost us $8,500 a year to insure that place fully. We just did the renewal at $5,100. So it's coming down some, right? But still very high. I remember historically that was a $2,000 property to insure. Like, why is it that much, right? So obviously we've been seeing the insurance crisis. That's causing a ton of folks. So all those four things: principal, the price of the property, and interest, right? So by the interest rate coming down some, that helps, but isn't enough, right? Because, taxes, insurance is still high. And then here's the other thing: you've got inflation driving everything else up in everyone's life. I mean, you can't go into a store and sneeze without it being $100, right? And you feel like I walked out with a piece of gum. Like, what did I do? So across the board, the cost is going up everywhere. And sure, statistically, gas is down, things like that, but people are feeling it. And so I think all of those things are impacting people. So do I think we're going to have a stampede of buyers? No. No, not until I think after the first of the year. I think too many people are wondering what's going to happen with this election. I think a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with, things all overall. So let's see what else. If you guys have any questions about real estate, any questions about creative financing, put it in the chat. Make money with Ebony. Hello, Court. Colleen has suggested I collaborate with you. I have done some dispo calling, but that is it so far. What are you looking to do? How are you looking to get into real estate? Are you looking to? Sounds like, are you looking to wholesale? Like, what are you looking to do? If you guys have a question, by the way, put it in the comment. Whether again around real estate or creative finance, or if you want to join me. You can join me on this live and we can talk face to face. Appreciate all you guys joining in with me this Wednesday. Some of you guys know on Saturday, I am going out of the country for 2.5 weeks. Every year we try to plan one big trip. This is it. We are going to Europe. And so looking forward to that. So a few days ago, I said, hey, you know what? Let me go live every day and talk about creative finance, answer some questions. Because although I put content out, it's not always Q&A, right? Like, you can comment on the content, but it's not live like this. And so I've been wanting to do some more lives, and so I can answer questions that you guys have and talk with you guys, get to know what you have going on. Today's an interesting day though, right? Wednesdays are when I drop my podcast. So I am currently in the process of uploading it. So we'll see what that looks like. Hey, Steven, man, it's been a minute, man. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Courtney, do you think that insurance pressures are stronger than interest rate changes, meaning rate change won't affect us locally due to high homeowners and flood costs? Steven, I think specifically because we have, specifically in Louisiana, property taxes are insurance. So with 2024 being a reassessment year for property taxes, that's an issue. And then insurance, it's still remaining high. I think we've seen some relief, but like it's like Like we're getting, this is maybe a little crass. I was going to say like we're getting strangled, and instead of it being really hard, it's hard still, but just not as much. So the question, I think it just has to be further rate drops, Stephen. I think literally in some parts of the country, if you get below 6%, that's going to send buyers out there. But I think in our market, we might need to see a further rate drop because we have more things impacting our monthly payment. So that's a really good question. So I think that's important. All right. I have 11 acres of land in Virginia. What do you think is the best route to go with building on the property? This is a really good question. Depends what you want to build. So the fact that you have the 11 acres, and especially if you have them free and clear, that's one thing. Now you've got to say, hey, what do I want how do I want this land to serve me? You can subdivide it if it can be subdivided, meaning take that 11 and chop it up to maybe 3 or 4 pieces, maybe 10 or 11 pieces, right? Depending on what the local area, the county will let you do, or the city. Depending, it's 11 acres, might be county. And it's also, what is it zoned? What's going on in the area? Here's a really good tip for you. Go figure out, you're saying, hey, what's the best route to go with building on the property? I'm going to get to that point. Most counties and cities have what's called a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 year plan. It's a planning and development plan. And if you can get your hands on that for the area, if it's the county, it might be a 50-year plan. It might be a 25-year plan. See if you can get your hands on that. So if what I would do is I would go to the county planning and development office and say, hey, do you guys have any sort of official plan for the county of what you want to see? And again, this is going to be like an economic development type plan where they're going to say, here's the whole area. Let me see if I can pull one up for you. Hold on, St. Tammany Parish, 2040 plan. I think it's 2040 plan. All right, so I'm going to show you something, and guys, just take this into consideration. So this is my local area. So I live in I currently live in New Orleans, but I invest in St. Tammany Parish. This is, New Directions 2040, the St. Tammany Parish Comprehensive Plan. Y'all, this is a 134-page PDF. Do you see that? 134-page PDF. Like, that's huge, right? And this is on what they're trying to do. I literally just Googled, so let me take you back. I literally just Googled St. Tammany Parish, right? So in Louisiana, we have parishes, not counties. 2040, and look, I didn't even spell it right, plan. And this is the first thing that came up. And this is from stpgov.org, and it's ND 2040 Comprehensive Plan PDF, which is New Directions 2040. So this is the PDF, 134 pages. And let's see. All right, this is acknowledging who put it all together, all the different stakeholders, which means like decision makers. Stakeholders is a very corporate word. All right, let's see. The consultant team. All right, so this is the contents. The role of the comprehensive plan, how the plan was made, parish history, and regional context. So the parish vision and guiding principles, the vision statements, principle, a preferred growth plan. That's page 8. We're going to go there. Plan elements, land use and development, page 14. We're going to go there. Mobility, transportation, and utilities, living with nature, people and communities, business and economy, implementation, administrative, and then the parish profile. Y'all, you could go find this forever, wherever you invest. And if you are like, hey, I own some land, one of the best things you can do is say, what are the plans for this area. And basically, this is a hack of like basically getting in the path of progress. All right, so we want page 8. So this is how, how the plan was made. Let's not do that. The vision and guiding principles. A pattern for preferred growth. Literally, change in population. So this is, look, the darkest color here, the one that's like a blue color, 200 to 293% increase in population between 2000 and 2020, which that's this section right here. This one is, this little level right here is 0 to 17% decrease. So this is an area that has lost some population. And so what they're doing is they're looking at where's the most amount of growth. This right here, I literally pulled this from my local parish or your county. They're planning and development. This is literally available, 134. This is what's called insider trading, by the way. In real estate, it is legal. And so they're talking about population growth projections, right? And then here, growth as usual. Let's see. They're going to talk through space to spread, right? So they're talking, like ultimately they're looking at a few different things. Let's see. Plan elements. Let's look through what's going on here. By the way, I haven't looked at this myself. Planned use and development. So existing land use distribution. This one's for nature. This second one is rural. Then you've got parks and open space, then estates, and then suburban. Let's see. That actually cuts off, so I don't see what that last one said. Oh, wait, it comes here. Oh, mobile home parks. Town homes and garden. Traditional neighborhoods, commercial and civic and industrial. So, like, this is a very interesting way to see. So if you have that land, I would encourage you to go see what the plan is for that area, because that's also going to be important. This is me talking 30,000 feet, and then I'm going to come back and answer some things. But ultimately here, they're talking about future land use categories. So you have the different ones, and then just talking through, things that they're looking at. So that's something that you want to take a look at. So, okay, look, you've got the 11 acres. I would encourage you to go look and see what the plan is in your area for that. And ultimately, you need to see what are you zoned for, what can you build, and then so it's what can you build. But another question is what should you do, right? So a can and should, those are two separate things. The reason I pointed you to seeing what the comprehensive plan is for your area is, what are they trying to accomplish? And can you build towards the path of progress? What are you currently zoned for? If you can subdivide that 11 acres, a lot of people leave things like a lot of open space. So, and then you've got to figure out your financing. If you're wanting today money, then, I would encourage you to look at subdividing the land and building individually to resell. Or even just flipping the land, because then you don't have to worry about, building and all that. The other thing is, if you're wanting long-term money, again, well, can it be zoned for a duplex or a fourplex, right? If you're going to put the effort into building, that's another reason. Go look at that. See what it has to say about something called density. See what is it currently zoned for and what you can do. All of that is really important. I just went on a rabbit chase talking about this, but I think this is something that if you guys are heavily involved in a local area, I would encourage you, go figure out what their local plan is. So we're in 2024. This is a plan for 2040. That's important. Eric says, I want to learn more about creative finance. Eric, that's huge. But I also want to say that's vague. Learning about creative finance can be a wide scope. So creative finance can be anything from A lot of people define it a lot of ways. So one of the big things there, Eric, are you wanting to learn about creative finance so that you can buy rentals? Are you wanting to learn about creative finance so that you can see that you're a realtor, if you can help clients who don't have a high credit score to get into homes? So what does that look like? All right. What are your thoughts on wholesaling? Is that a viable market to shelve into? Okay, so when I got started 10 years ago, I started off flipping and then I added in wholesaling. Wholesaling is today market. Can you make money wholesaling when it's a hobby? Yes, but it's going to be, the deals are going to be 1 month you might have a deal and then it might go a few months and you have another one. Wholesaling is a business. It is really a marketing and sales business. It does not have a lot to do with investing. It is really a contact sport. How many people can you get in touch with that are motivated? 5% of a population are really motivated sellers. 95% are people you shouldn't be talking to because they don't have a problem for you to solve. And with wholesaling, you need a motivated seller who's willing to sell at a discount and enough of a discount where you can make money too. So is it viable? Yeah, it is. It is a way to make today money. It is something that it does demand for you to make consistent money with it, that you build a business. And that's going to cost money with marketing, and that is going to cost, time in building an actual repetitive process with the business. Check out, my podcast, the Strategic Success Podcast, check out episode number 2. I interviewed one of my best friends and business partners, Stephen Keegery, and he runs the largest wholesale company here in New Orleans. And he has some really good insights on, it's literally, it's called Wholesaling Done Right. So check that out. I do think it's a good market to get in. So it's not a market, it's a strategy, a good strategy to get into. That really depends on your goals. It really depends on your goals. It is a today money strategy, meaning that it will pay you money, relatively soon. It is not, I would fall in the line that it's not investing in the same way that, even flipping is more of a business than it is an investment. It's buying low, selling high. So wholesaling is contracting low, selling on a contract high. So ultimately, if what you're looking for is more like tomorrow money, retirement, financial freedom, things like that. So think about things like flipping, wholesaling, and all of that stuff is today money. Think about that is it's money, think of it as a salary. For rentals, think of that as, not a salary. Think of that as an investment that's going to pay you over time, long term. And so that is, think of that more, I don't want to say a dividend, but something like a dividend. Jordan, know anything about Youngsville, Louisiana? Small mobile home park, like 7 pads, tenant owned. Yeah, Jordan, I've been to Youngsville. I've actually, it's a few hours from me. I think like 2.5 hours from me. It's a growing market. I don't know if you're looking at buying that yourself or what you're looking at doing, but Youngsville is like it's a growing market. So the question is it priced right? That does matter. Where is it? I own some mobile home parks myself. So the question would be, is it, what are the utilities? Are they private utilities, meaning well and septic or sewage treatment or something like that? Or is it city utilities? That would mean a lot for me. Renee, yeah, that's good. Make sure to learn and understand the basics. I think that's important. You can make money in real estate doing a lot of different things. The thing there is you can make money, yes. To make money consistently takes effort, but you definitely want to make sure you learn and understand the basics. Good stuff, you guys. Good questions there. Any more? Keep them coming. I know that a lot of people, I'll say this right now, every strategy So whether it's flipping, rentals, wholesaling, whatever, has its cycles. And so I'll say right now, wholesaling is a lot harder to find buyers, right? Just in general, buyers in general are difficult. Same thing with flipping. You can buy a property, renovate it, but it's right now selling that's taking longer. Right now, a few years ago, it was really hard to get a property under contract to wholesale. Now it's easier to find a property to get under contract, right? A few years ago when it was hard to find a contract, a seller to contract to wholesale, it would fly off the shelf because there was less, available opportunities when the market was hot. Now it's easier to get a contract with a motivated seller, but harder to buy, harder to find buyers who will pull the trigger. So, that's a good thing to keep in mind is that, when it's not a great time to sell, it's oftentimes a good time to buy. When it's a good time to sell, it's not always a good time to buy. Meaning, you have to work harder for the deals. Good questions, good comments today, you guys. I enjoy when you guys interact and ask questions, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can. How many of you guys enjoyed looking at that 2040 comprehensive plan that we were talking through? I hope that was something that maybe some of you guys have seen something like that for your area before. But I think it's important to stay, there's so many things out there, you guys. There's so many ways you can continue to, learn. That's why, especially getting into deals that are where deals make sense and getting into an area like every single market. If you're in a lot of markets right now, it can be tough. Ebony, I didn't have issues getting buyers. I'm having troubles coming across reliable people. Reliable people for what specifically? And when you said I didn't have issues getting buyers, is that for one deal? Talk to me about what that deal volume looks like. Because again, I have moved deals this year. We run the largest dispo company in the greater New Orleans area, really South Louisiana, and that includes Baton Rouge. And we're moving deals, but it is harder to move. So yes, there's buyers out there, but not as easy as it was in the past. So troubles coming across reliable people for what? When you said wholesaling, what do you mean? Because are you, tell me about what you're doing. Are you doing dispo and you're having a hard time coming across wholesalers who have the contract with the seller? Ellis, welcome aboard, man. If you want to jump on one and have a conversation in a bit, I'd love to. Ebony, keep coming at me with your questions and I'll see what I can do. Because if you do dispo, yeah, it's hard to come across reliable wholesalers. We have because we dispo a lot of people's deals in the greater New Orleans area, we have a process in place because I will say we look at a lot of people's deals and tell them, no, we will not dispo this for you, or we can't dispo this for you because you don't have it at the right price. It's not the right, situation. So, absolutely, it's hard. A lot of people, again, are getting contracts, but they're not good contracts. And then we have a very solid process where it's like, again, we'll only work on certain deals where the numbers make sense. We have to vet the deal up front. If the deal doesn't make sense, we won't partner, we won't send it out. We're not going to do that. All right. Eric, so creative finance as far as finding different strategies on buying properties and helping my clients on buying as well. Yeah, Eric, that's great. So I want to encourage you, there's a few different ones, so learning seller finance, which, so seller carryback or owner financing would be the number one that I would recommend. Learning for yourself and for your clients. A lot of agents, so I've actually done, I'm not CE certified in the greater New Orleans area, although multiple people want me to be. I'm just not going through to do the dance with LREC right now. to become CE certified, but I've done a lot of classes on creative financing. When it comes down to it, Eric, a lot of agents know about bond for deed. I'll be honest, bond for deed is one of the last ways I want to buy and one of the last ways I want to sell. And so unfortunately, there's a ton of information on it for agents because some people have done very well teaching on it. But I think it's one of the strategy I am least interested in. So in other states, that's called a contract for deed or a land contract or an agreement for deed. But that's my preference as a creative finance person. I always want to, my interest is in buying one, owner financing the majority of the time. Or if I'm selling on a lease option or on a bond for deed. And then depending, maybe eventually selling on seller finance. It just depends on the situation. And so that's really important, learning how to do it. And then part of that is just continuing to get around creative investors, get around the language. Because, for example, I've had people tell me that, with creative financing, and they're like, wholesaling is creative financing. It's not. Wholesaling is a whole different type of thing. It has nothing to do with the financing, right? That's just, and so you want to get around people who are using, I'm not even going to say not using banks. Like they're just going about it the non-traditional way. One of the number one ways that I define creative finance is use what you have to get what you want, to get what you need. And so there's been times where, without diving off the deep end here, like it's the idea of being willing to think outside the box. Ebony, I don't appreciate it, but I don't need any dispos. We run the largest dispo company in greater New Orleans area. And we've got a very strong buyers list with folks, probably the strongest buyers one. And I know you're saying you would want to collaborate with us. So generally, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to understand what value you would bring. We have dispo staff, and so a lot of it is either deals we're sourcing ourselves or joint ventures we're doing with people who have the contract in New Orleans. And so I definitely appreciate that. It's just not sure how we can collaborate together. Yeah. Come on up. Hey.
Hey, Courtney.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Everything okay after the hurricane down there?
It is. I wish I could show you guys. Some of the damage I have. It's not much, but still working on finishing the final repairs for that. So thankfully, it's only been minor.
Oh, good.
And going from there. But now there's another something in the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm just like, Lord.
Oh no. Make it stop.
Well, you see, the end of hurricane season is the biggest threat. So,
Okay.
and we're between now and November 1st. That's it.
Right.
So it is what it is. We have just a little bit left. But how you doing, man? What are you working on
I'm
today?
good. I'm good. I'm helping somebody do a little subject to. So I got this really great guide that I got from your class.
Thank you, man.
So yeah. This is, I mean, I could tell how much work you put into this. Very, very complete. And so I said, before you do the subject to, let's go review this because there's, like we've talked about before, there's a whole lot of people that are pushing subject to, but they're not doing it responsibly. So I said, if you're going to do this, please be responsible. So.
Yeah, I was literally listening to someone yesterday where they said price was the thing they least cared about with the subject to deal, and I was like,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
like, Lord, help me to shut up right now because I am about to not shut up.
Right.
But
Yeah, biting my tongue is a very common practice these days.
yeah, yeah, man. So you came on out. for like one day
Yeah,
for the class,
yeah,
and like you flew in and flew out the same day.
yeah.
Kudos to you for that. Or did you come in the day before? You came in the day before, the
I
night
came in the
before.
night, yeah, the night before, went to the class and flew back home. And people ask me, "Where'd you go?" I went to New Orleans. They're like, "Oh, it must have been so much fun." I was like, "It was fun, but not the way you think it was." I had a really good time with my good friend Courtney and learning from her, and then meeting some really good folks. But I didn't, partake in what they thought. They said, "Oh, did you go down to Bourbon Street?" I'm like, "Nope."
Yeah. And lesson learned, I did a class in middle of August and where no one's AC can keep up with
Yeah,
anything. And
yeah,
so lesson learned. But
yeah. It came out well, though. I mean, I learned a lot. Really good
yeah,
people. I'm glad you did it. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's yeah.
love it, man. So you're helping a friend with a subject to deal right now.
Yep.
What else do you have
Well,
going on?
I'm going to be speaking at the Five Star Conference in Dallas
Oh, I saw
on the
that.
24th.
That's really
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I'll be on an expert panel. Really cool. It's a big national conference. I was really surprised that I was able to do this, but I'll be in Dallas, and the topic is building your real estate portfolio or empire. There's an empire. So I'm kind of representing the smaller investor. There's a lot of institutional level
Yeah,
type of people there. And so they want to kind of get a view from kind of Main Street, right? Not Wall Street, but from Main Street type of
yeah.
investors. So it's just very fortunate to be able to be participating, to be asked to be on this panel.
That's awesome. Do you know who else is on the panel with you?
There
Since you're,
is.
representing Main Street.
Yeah, yeah. There's a guy that I know, Mike Solis. He runs a small note hedge fund. He's actually here in California in Orange County. Really great investor. Looking forward to chatting with him. Rand Johnson, who owns Trustee Corp, he's a foreclosure trustee in many states. He's going to be the moderator of the panel, and he's also an investor as well. So it'll be really great to spend time with some of these panelists and just at this national level. It's really interesting, because it's kind of I think there's a divide. It's like there's a lot of seminars and events that I go to. There are a lot of mom and pop investors, and there's like this institutional level that's whole nother different type of crowd. So there's a lot of loan servicers there. If you're looking to buy notes and things like that, you want to go to Five Star. Way to rub a lot of shoulders and get access to pools and things like that. But
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for the folks who don't know who you are, do you mind introducing yourself?
sure, sure. My name's Ellis San Jose. I'm a full-time investor based out of Southern California. I've been doing this for about 3 decades now. I started off really not knowing what I was doing. My strategy was buy and hold on, you know. And I always talk about it in some of my earlier presentations how my first purchase was a duplex here in California, and how I could have made more money by buying a CD at the time because CD rates were off the charts. So this was back in 1989. Wow, long time ago. And the CD rates, I think, were like 9 or 10%, something ridiculous because inflation was so high. And because I kind of got my head handed to me, I did make money, but when I worked out the yield, it was like something over 5% or something like that for all the house. I mean, right? We all know how hard it is to own and manage property properly. We had a lot of learning how to manage property and a lot of feeding alligators. Right, I had to do that because when I had a vacancy, money had to come out of the pocket. So I said, "Oh my gosh, I better learn how to do this right." So it's been kind of this lifelong, uh, quest to find good people like that have taught me as well, right? That whole kind of the Jack Miller crowd. So I learned how to buy properties creatively. I also bought notes. So just very thankful that I had so many good influences on my investing career.
I love it, man. And when you talk to tell us what like the normal type of deals you do in California, because you're based out of California, that is a hard
It's
market
tough.
to tap into for like a ton
Yeah.
of things, but yeah, speak to that.
Yeah, because I my strategy is to buy only locally, and I buy basically in 3 different counties around me. It's kind of like a 2-hour radius. I have to buy at a very deep discount, or I have to buy creatively. So a lot of things I look for properties that have title issues. I look for properties where there's missing chains of title with ownership, et cetera. A lot of inherited property where I'm buying up individual ownership shares. Um, I like one of the best ones I've done recently was I bought this hoarder house that was abandoned for many, many years. And it was funny. I got on this roll. I think I got three of them in a row. They were all kind of like the same story, like abandoned, missing owner, hoarder house, in a beautiful neighborhood. I mean, one of the neighborhoods that I bought one of my properties, I mean, I think it's like 2 miles from the beach, maybe less than that. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, how do you find those things?" I'm just like, if you look, they're out there. You'll be very, very surprised in like really, really nice neighborhoods. And the other one that I bought that I got seller carry. So that's how I have to do things a lot. I have to do things with creative financing in order to make a cash flow.
Mhm.
Because if you buy stuff traditionally in California, you're kind of doing the same thing I did in the first part of my career, which is just buy and hold on for dear life, and then hope that the income catches up with the expenses, and that the appreciation bails you out. Which is, please do not do that. It's very painful and can
Well,
end up very badly.
so you got people who are in these higher cost of living markets.
Yeah.
The Californias, the parts of Florida. I see, I have friends in Canada that are doing
Right.
that. Obviously we could name a whole bunch more, but where it's like you just said that you hope that the income catches up to the expenses and that the appreciation's so great that it bails you out.
Right, right. That was kind of that strategy is actually promoted a lot here in California, which I just, I have to kind of bite my tongue.
It's like a
If you
hope and
catch,
pray.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if you catch the cycle right, yeah, it may work. Like if you're at the beginning of a upward trend, it will bail you out. But what if it's not? Then oh my gosh, so painful. That's where a lot of people lost a lot of money in what, 08, 09, 2010, when we had that. Oh, so yeah, it's a very, very dangerous habit, and I try to break people of it. I used to run a big real estate group here,
Yeah.
a networking group, and I would always warn them. I'm like, yeah, you may be rewarded if you catch it right, but you better learn the fundamentals. And if you buy properly, it doesn't matter what the cycle you're in, really. And that's where I always wanted to be. I said I wanted to be an investor where it didn't matter where I was in the cycle. I could still figure out a way to make a deal and get one done in a very safe and healthy manner. That's why I love your title of your subject was safe subject to deals, right? You have to think about safety, and you talk about this a lot too, where sometimes you gotta think about playing defense and not just offense. Because I was offense for a very, very long time. I just wanted to, buy something, throw it in the back of the truck, move on to the next deal, and just keep doing that stuff. And I started to see the error in my ways, and I've had my share of lumps and bruises in this business. I've lost a chunk of money from time to time, but luckily I met some of the people that have taught you, and they just kind of set me straight,
Yeah.
and hopefully now I've 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 turned over a new leaf, and for like the last 12 years, I think I've been doing okay.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, thankfully, I mean, that's literally, I'm getting ready to drop my podcast for the week.
Oh,
It's
cool.
Wednesday, so I dropped my accounts, and literally, the name of it is How Mindset and Exposure Are Everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's
I
what you
agree.
get exposed to. And so some people, all they're exposed to is the flashy people who are
Right,
just offense, 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 right?
right,
But then, you and I both got exposed to people who are like, hey, play defense. Hey, safe financing matters, most, right?
right.
And then also, the skill sets and stuff like that matter. That stuff's
Oh
huge.
yeah.
Like literally, I saw my trajectory. I was like this, and then like whenever I learned about, so I learned about those guys. I learned from like kind of the new school guys that were very offense based, all very business based, and then when I met these other guys, it was like for me. So
Oh yeah.
it was the right exposure.
Yeah. Similar experience that I had. I was all offense up until like 2007, and that's when things were getting kind of right a little bit.
Interesting time.
Yeah, yeah. And then I started seeing the writing on the wall, and then I met
Right.
some of these gray hairs, right? And it was funny, Courtney, because I pride myself on being pretty knowledgeable. I mean, I was a finance major in college. I understood a lot of high level finance, but I had never seen how people like these gray hairs understood finance to a whole different level. And I just said, I've got to discard everything I think I know and just shut up and be quiet and listen to these guys. And that's when everything changed. And I said, that's when I got my success, is because I stopped doing the things that I thought were right, and then I started to understand the basic fundamentals. I mean, I had learned how to run a financial calculator years ago, but I didn't know how to use it to make money, right?
Well, and that's one of those things where if you guys know what a financial calculator is, for those of you, for the handful of you guys joining us, put a one in the chat. If you do not know what a financial calculator is, put a number two in the chat. And so there's 8 or 9 of you guys joining in on us. So if you know what it is, put a one. If you don't know, put a two. This is huge. All right, so I see a two. Who else has never heard of a financial calculator before? Put a number two in the chat, and it's okay. I didn't know about this. It is now one of the most. I don't have it on my computer. I have it on my cell phone. And all right, so we have a few people who haven't heard of a financial calculator before. Um, so do you have a physical one?
Oh gosh, I'm sure I
It's
do
okay.
somewhere. It's on
No,
my.
no.
I use it on my phone now, so I
I use
rarely
it on
use
my
my
phone too.
the HP.
Um, yeah, so I use the 10.
That's
So
the
we have a
thing.
few of you guys who haven't heard of before. A 10B2i calculator. I mean, yeah, it's on my cell phone. I use it like almost every day. I use it more than the other calculator. And
Right.
as a creative investor, it's one of the number one tools I use.
Oh yeah.
Now I do have a physical HP calculator somewhere, but it's not on me. And so um, but I mean, it took learning from guys. And so, like, for example, what does a financial calculator do? It allows you to structure things like what a mortgage would be if you had, a 30-year mortgage at 8% for 100,000, and what would the notes and, what would the payment be? Um, I mean, I use that for structuring private money, for seller financing. I use that for, obviously there's the next level, which is determining yield. And so if I know someone wants to do a deal, but they want to get an X amount of return, I can then walk backwards into, well, what would they need to get the deal for? And so there's levels to it. I use it for a ton of things. What do you use yours for?
If I'm buying notes, I use that quite a bit, because then I'll make an offer on the note based on the yield I want, the cash flow that the note will provide. When I'm doing a lot of the seller carry stuff where I'm buying property, I could pay more for a property, with the face value, because I could structure it using the financial calculator. I could buy a $600,000 asset on paper and really only pay half price for it, or maybe slightly above it, because of the terms that the calculator helps me massage and design for that particular situation. When I used it on that one of those abandoned houses, the secret was to listen to the seller, and she said, "Oh my gosh, that house was supposed to be my pension. I'm really bummed." And I said, "Well, it could still be your pension. Why don't I just provide you with a pension like cash flow every month?" And she was like, "What? How do you do that?" So when I did all the figures, it was basically a $600,000 asset that I bought for half price, because of the terms that I was able to negotiate. And she was happy because she's getting this really good cash flow over the years, and she doesn't have to settle for a bargain basement cash price, which wasn't going to actually solve her problem. She needed income over the lifetime.
I
So
love how you pitch seller finance, right? That was how you structured it, was seller finance.
yeah,
Or
yeah, I,
then,
I gave her two options. I usually start off with a split offer. I said, "Look, I've listened to what you said you need, etc. So here are the two offers that I could pay. If I paid you cash, this is what I could do. That I could do it this way, or we could do it this other way, which I think might really meet your needs to have a pension." And then she saw the disparity, and oh my gosh, look, I could receive so much money over my lifetime versus a lump sum and pay taxes on it. She was like, "Okay, let's do option B." Um, And I try to teach this as much as I can, because especially in this type of market, the more tools you have, the more problems you can solve. Because if all you have is like a cash price, or a cash offer, you're leaving so many other possibilities off the table because you don't truly understand. There's really no reason to listen to the seller if all you have is one solution. But if you have multiple solutions, that's when you just be quiet and you say, "Hey, I'm a problem solver." That's why, I like your group, the helpers not hagglers, because that's the whole concept. You're not here to hammer somebody on price. You're here to say, okay, let me just be quiet and listen and figure out some of the different alternatives you might have.
And
So
see how I can help.
see how
Yeah.
I can help. And hey, I'm just gonna, I always do this. Hey, I'm gonna float a couple ideas to you. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And then by the time we're done, I'll have something that you love. And
I love that, man.
yeah,
Well, and that's where, and when I think about creative finance and making an offer to a seller, I mean, sometimes that includes a low cash offer, but it, includes other things too. Um, a lot of times my goal in the conversation is to go from being across the table. So I'm at my mother's kitchen table right now.
oh, okay,
Sometimes when you negotiate, people are like, sitting across the table like this,
right,
right? My
right,
goal is to, a lot of people when they talk about things, they start across the table. My goal is to be able to get up in the middle of the conversation and come on the same time side of the table and say, hey, how are we going to figure this out together?
right,
Right. So where I'm on the same side, I'm on their team as a solution for their problem. We're going to figure it out. We just we're just going to arrive there. Right. Like we have to do some work to arrive there, to figure out what's the best option. And that's been huge. I mean, that's been huge.
It takes a lot of patience to do it that way, but I think it's a worthy journey. You have to really invest in the relationship so that you can get those opportunities to sit down with somebody, and then you want to be able to lower their defenses. So it
Well,
takes an investment to do that, because if you're just firing off offers right off the bat, um, it's not necessarily bringing you closer to building rapport.
so that's funny. So you've met one of I think you've met him, but you've heard me talk about one of my best friends, business partners, Ozzy Steve. We own a portfolio of rentals together, and then we do the dispo company together. But he has the largest wholesale company in New Orleans.
Right.
Um, we started off our partnership years ago, and like he hates going on appointments with me. He hates it because he is the fast cash offer guy. He wants efficiency. He wants to get in. He wants to get out. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's looking for a small segment of people to say that they want convenience, they want speed, whatever. And so that he's like, hey, cash, hammer here, everything's got to be a nail. Well, he went on 3 appointments with me, and each one was like 1, 2, maybe 3 hours long. But like I got 30-year seller financing on it. I got, whatever made sense for the transaction. The other day he sent me on an appointment and I was in and out in 10 minutes. And he was like, he called me, because I called him right before and then I called him
Yeah.
afterwards. And he was like, no way. He was like, he's like, of all the appointments I could have gone on, I could have gone on that one with you. And I'm like, because he hates it because of that whole, again, he's a businessman. He wants speed and efficiency, but I'm an investor. I am looking for value and
Yeah.
opportunity. And so there's a level there that, and I'm more of a, I say, hey, he's a businessman and he's looking for systems and all that. I am more of a specialist and I'm looking for certain things.
Right.
And so I need time with that seller to learn it's almost like I'm a doctor looking for opportunities to, like I'm listening so I can prescribe some options,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But like if you're the minute clinic and you can't help a lot of people with a lot of things,
Right.
right? Because you're just trying to go through volume.
Right. And the cool thing is both work.
Yeah.
It's just you just kind of decide which one you want to be. And I knew as soon as I started learning from people that were more toward kind of what we do now, it's like, oh, that's where I really want to land. I don't want to have this big organization with overhead and lots of systems that are kind of one size fits all type of thing. I didn't want to be that. But I know a lot of people that do it really, really well, and hey, hats off. They know how to do that kind of stuff, and they know how to scale big. It's funny because I'm reading this book. I know it's backwards,
Oh
but
yeah,
it's the Chad
yeah.
Carson, Small and Mighty, and I just love that. I mean, it epitomizes
I like
kind of
chatting.
philosophy. Yeah, I mean, I was like, yeah, how few transactions can I do to get where I want to go versus what my old model was. Hey, just keep throwing them in the boat. Just keep
The context
keep
for it. How many can I do? I want volume, but it's a trader
right.
business.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I was like, oh wow, this way really suits me better. I'm much more comfortable. I'm happier. I'm joyful. The other way I was more stressed out. But yeah, either way works. There's lots of ways, and that's the beauty of this business. There's many ways you can actually make this business work for you. You just kind of have to find your sweet spot, and the sooner you find it, I think the happier you'll be.
I
But yeah, I
love it.
love this book by Chad. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great book.
Yeah, I interviewed him and dropped the episode last week on
Oh
my
no
podcast.
way, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, so he him he we have similar mentors, John, right?
Yeah,
John
yeah,
Child.
yep,
And I really appreciate him, and I'm really glad that message is getting put out there in bigger pockets,
yeah,
right? It's the small and mighty investor. It's the idea. Most people think the only option is 100 houses, when really most people just need five.
right, right.
Yeah,
Oh gosh, yeah. Once I started really embracing that, it took a lot of the anxiety and stress off. I was like, wait, I don't have to get 100 doors because some other people talk about it is like people that are door counters. It's not what you want to count. You want to count your net income and your lifestyle, right?
yeah,
You could have 100 doors and be broke. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so I had this conversation with someone one time. I said, if someone said they had 500 doors, um, would you be impressed with them if they said they had 500 doors? And a lot of people would immediately be like, yeah, I'd want to know if they had a mentorship. Like
right,
I'd be like, hey, but what if I told you each one was losing $100,
yeah,
$500,
right,
then, so it goes back down to what metric are you chasing? Is it the accumulation metric, or is it the quality of life, meaning time freedom? Is it, financial freedom, like what is it net, like that stuff really matters. And I think in this day and age with social media, which it's not lost to me that we're doing this on Instagram live, but in the day and age of social media, people just look at the gross, not at the net, right? They look at the highlight reel, not at the actual footage, right?
right.
And that's why you get people who are chasing the people who might have 500, but they're not asking, are they profitable? They're not asking, is your life better?
Yeah,
They're just saying, oh well, they have this, so it must mean, and they're assuming. And I know many people who are assuming the wrong things, because I've met folks who have the things and it is not what it really is, what they
yeah.
think it is.
Yeah, I fell for that too early on. I was really impressed with the flashy stuff, and I was like, "Oh gosh, they must know what they're talking about." And then you start to figure out what are the things you should be paying attention to, and what are the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
And that took me a while to figure out. So
Yeah. Look, man, I enjoyed chatting with you.
yeah, same here.
I actually meant to give you a call. And so if you're free in a little bit after this, after I finish up here,
Yeah,
if you're free, I'll give you a call. Okay.
sounds good.
Appreciate you, man. I'm gonna go ahead
Yeah.
and end up here. Um, guys, thanks so much for joining today. Ellis, where can people connect with
Uh,
you?
here on Instagram, I'm at FIBI USA. So FIBI stands for For Investors by Investors, and it's USA. I'll be in Dallas on the 24th and 25th, I think, of September. So it's at the Five Star Conference. If you're in the area, come say hi. So I'll be at the expert panel there. But yeah, best place to connect with me is here on Instagram for FIBI USA, and I'll have a book coming out soon. So that's in the works.
Oh, I have not heard about this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, I'm gonna, when I hang up here, I'll call you in a few,
Sounds good.
okay? And you're gonna tell me about
You
this
got
book. All right,
it.
guys, have a
All
great
right.
rest of the day. And I'm gonna make sure I'll save this and add it to the YouTube channel. But thanks for everyone who asked questions and hung out with us during the Q&A today.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, Ellis.